Okay, this brought a smile to my face. It's really good to see them talking and expressing themselves. And we're building something with the Pantheon. I don't know what's happening, but it's across the world. Yanka seems to be the only...
That's just a him thing.
Yeah, I think it's as well.
I think that's just an Archeron thing.
You know what's cool? As soon as that video hit the Reddit and got a few thousand views, Pantheon was announced to be buffed. Is it a coincidence? 100%. It is. But I would like to think it's not. So X7 versus JDXL. Let's look into both teams. Let's start with X7 because they were brought in on the interview. Chasey on the top. Viking in the jungle. There you go, Tempt in the mid lane. Attila and Kasing on the bot lane. A lot of these names you already know by them. Attila and Kasing, they were a duo back in the day. And it seemed at the beginning of the split, it was now working. But now, finally, we have the Attila o'clock.
And I really do think Attila is one of the people that stood up incredibly well, because I think on an individual level, a lot of this team was performing well, even with MC in the roster, right? And I don't think it was necessarily a case of individual performances from a lot of the rest of that roster, particularly when you look at the likes of Tempt, right? You look at Kasing, still having good games. Attila, though, someone has absolutely lit a fire under this guy's ass. This guy's here to play. He is so motivated.
Well, might as well show the stats from Attila, because this is scary. I casted this guy in Portugal. He went to LVP, he went to a lot of places, but look at this. This is menacing.
I mean, I think it's just a playoff buff, honestly. Like, there are so many players that are talking about, oh,
what is that?
It's in playoffs, I'm gonna pop off. You know, the regular split doesn't really matter. But Attila actually proves that this is true for him. That 26-minute rule applies every single time. This game, especially, the first one against Astralis, they were looking, X7 they were looking so down. Astralis were playing really well together. But then Attila on this series, completely popping off, you know, getting the snipes with the laser, and then just chasing Astralis down, making sure that X7 take that crucial first victory.
What is this?
Is super impressive.
And the thing about this fight in particular was X7 survived through to the point where Attila could get Infinity Edge. Infinity Edge was hit just before this fight, literally the back just before it. And the fact that they could survive in what was a very difficult game, and it was a very tight contest that Astralis gave them, that was really impressive to see. And of course, that carried on throughout a lot of the rest of the game and the rest of the series, because Attila was an incredible force.
Yeah, I think we even saw in the game too, like really early, they got a double kill, and after that, I feel like just the momentum was just over. Like X7 were just looking super strong in that bot side.
Every single replay you see on this one is like 26, 27. It's that curse. We talked about it. It's like a meme, but it comes true every single time.
26-minute rule.
26 minutes rule. So if you get to see a game going into 26 minutes today, look into Attila. You never know.
You know, there's like the Monka W just watch the stopwatch thing. You know, you didn't cast it in for Kale. It's in for 26 for Attila.
X7 might win this one. So let's talk about JDXL now. We have Cries on the top lane. He popped off on the previous one versus Dusty. Nobody was expecting a lot from JDXL, and he completely demolished that top lane. Then you have the Dan unlocking Roscoe, the rookie coming in and showing prowess as well. And then you look into the bot lane, Vincent and FGG. My question to you guys is, I was looking into FGG as one of those supports that could go to the Herald at level 6, rotating non-stop. I don't see the same anymore.
No, and FGG has had...
This chat is confusing, by the way.
To put things into perspective, so I actually cast some of X7's very first games back in UKL qualifiers start of last year. Now, FGG, very similar thing. He was in that same kind of tournament, and then he got bumped up very, very quickly. UKLC, couple of games, did really well there. Got up into the NLC, was kind of struggling in the NLC. It was a tough level of competition. And then comes this year, and suddenly he is looking like one of the best supports in the league. We know he has that kind of potential, and I'd love to see that kind of line for both of them, seeing how far both of these, kind of the org and the player facing across them, have managed to jump up. But if this is going to be a close matchup, FGG, as you're saying, does need to get back that impact. Have those level 6 Herald fights again as a support, which you can get with some weird support rotations. Have that impact early on, because he could be a difference maker.
And we're talking about always lanes or junglers that can impact the entire map. But one of the parts that needs to be unlocked for both teams is the mid lane. Morosco, and then we have Tempt. Two amazing players, but Tempt has showcased what he's capable of doing. So if we can, let's show in champion pool, because not only Tempt plays Morosco's champion pool, but he plays even more.
It's a good thing that Viking just proves that stats doesn't matter, right? I hope for Morosco's sake. I mean, this is true. I mean, look at Tempt's kill participation, man. 80% almost as a mid laner. That is just crazy.
And I think that really shows, again, like, where the focus is for this team. And also, it comes down to a lot of team fights for X7, right? Later into the game, Tempt is the guy right in the middle of things, on stuff like the Azir shuffling in, Lissandra, Swain, Silas, getting just absolutely stuck into things. But even with that, 80% kill participation is ridiculous for a mid laner.
Now, one thing that I want to bring in is the fact that we're not going to have your percentage of who do you think is going to win, chat. But I did peek into the Twitter, and I saw 53%, which is not a lot, by the way, in favor of JDXL. So do you guys believe it's the XL momentum from yesterday on the LEC is like, well, if the main team can do it, the academy can do it as well?
Let me riddle you a story here.
Riddle.
Because
Riddle is no longer in the playoffs, by the way.
No longer in playoffs. But XL beat Vitality in the LEC, and that was a revenge match for them because Vitality knocked them out of Spring in a 3-2 series. Very, very close. Well, what's to say that the revenge story ends there? What if X7 go and avenge their former jungler on Vitality and take down XL today?
Not the same, but same. As we're about to start this champion select, I'll toss it to this side. Slapping the button to start this one for you guys. Now we do this, okay? This is how we do it on the NLC. Because I know Chet will be here. Chet, you were there like, start the game, please, casters. Well, we started the NLC. We got you covered. Let's start with the first one. We were talking about important picks. You brought in Jarvan.
Yes, I think that is incredibly important. But actually, in rehearsal, Trouble and I were going a bit back and forth about trying to theory craft. What the hell do you do to get Jarvan and make Jarvan not be into Zeri? Because if you first pick something like Jarvan, you get locked in the Zeri on the other side, and just giving up the Zeri-Sivir matchup gets a little bit weird anyway. I think what XL should aim to do is maybe first pick the Zeri, try and see if the Sivir gets picked on the other side, and then pick the Jarvan as a response into that. End of the day, the blueprint is meant to be early pressure, early ganks from Dan, which also gives you that backline access, which JDXL need in the team fights later. A lot of things work together with that. That's the archetype we're looking for.
Okay, let's see how big IQ we have right now. Look at the bans. It's mostly from Morosku. His entire chip and pull is gone.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we talked about too, right? Morosku having such a limited champion pool already, and they just know for sure X7 just targets that. But the Renata first pick, this is so many OP picks open. The Poppy, the Zeri, the Sivir, it's all open for grabs.
But when you lock in the Renata, you can Kalista. You can actually play very heavily towards bot side, lock in Renata, Kalista, incredibly lane dominant, and the Zeri's on the other side. You've given Attila, like, the godlike carry champion.
We saw that yesterday.
XL, I hope you know what you're doing.
You saw 7 games, by the way, of what Zeri can bring to the table. So there you go, a start for Viking as well, unlocking the rest of the matches as we get the hover for the Katarina. No Pantheon? No Pantheon. But this could be the pick, and there we go. It's going to be Sejuani, either for the jungle or for the top lane. I think it's top lane, but jungle is available.
I mean, I thought for sure that we were gonna see Dan, as you mentioned, right, being such a like playing this proactive early game junglist, which he, don't get me wrong, he's probably gonna do that. We see the Yasuo lock in as well. This is just getting spicy.
Well, Yasuo is a flex down towards bot side. And Zeri, well, Renata is incredibly good in lane, and Zeri is not going to be a lane bully. I actually think that is a flex between bot lane for XL.
That is so big IQ because
you're not going to get slammed in lane by Zeri.
The real power level for Yasuo is when you get to 0-10, and Vincer dies a lot.
Come on, man.
He's speed running. No, I'm kidding. Now, looking into the second phase of bans, I'm just trying to get that one. As we get the Lulu locked in, I think. I don't know.
The camera's in the way.
It should be the Lulu. There you go. The Lulu is locked in as we need to see the bans now. The second phase of bans. It's going to be the Sivir. We still don't know if Yasuo is going for the AD carry or not.
I mean, I think for sure already you can already tell that X7 are just going for the scaling right? They see the Seri, they see the Lulu. And while I do agree with you, Nightmare, that Yasuo could be flexed towards the bot side, maybe Seri doesn't punish as much. Does Seri really have to punish anything when you're paired up with a Lulu? You will just outscale every single thing on the side of his JDXL. We're looking like this.
Yeah, the Sejuani can also be flexed in multiple roles as well. I mean, if the Renata hadn't been locked in, I was wondering, Yasuo, Sejuani bot lane. Actually, that was a lane that we saw in the LJL. Rascal Jester played that in one game versus Detonation Focus Me, very famous team over there. They lost, but they did get 2v2 kills. It's a very fun lane. Anyway, Renata locked in, not going to be the case. I think that's a very good point you bring up, though. It's like, even though it's possible, remember that thing we said in spring about JDXL, where we had like the strength being strong and flexible and creative drafts as a pro for them, and a con was flexible and creative drafts. I wonder if this is a case where they're putting stuff on the table and they're trying to give themselves flexibility, but what they're flexing with is just not fit for purpose in terms of going late game.
And there we go, the Kalista is removed, the power with the Renata. Now you don't have the Severe to fall back into, and you're losing a lot of weapons for Venza right now as an AD carry. Unless he falls back into that Yasuo, things are looking dire.
But I mean, Morozku typically plays a lot of quite low-range melee assassin type champions, so obviously the Yasuo can very much go there. But you've lost a lot of target bans on both of your carry roles in mid and bot lane, and that's going to be quite dangerous again if it comes down to late game.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? I just look at X7's comp right now. I'm just super scared. Please don't. Are they locking the Vlad as well? I mean, basically, this is just X7 saying, I kind of like both of the ideas from this draft, honestly, because I think JDXL, maybe they come into the day and saying, we kind of have to throw some sort of curveball in game one to be able to, like, maybe upset X7, because I do think X7 looks stronger on the paper. Morozku obviously not being as experienced as every single player on X7. And they have to get something going with this draft. I have no clue what they're going to bring us, but I'm excited to see it. Looking now, if they're going to lock in this Twitch, it just feels like they're kind of defaulting to just going for the scaling route as well, but you're never going to outscale the side of X7 in this.
And also, like, how do you survive as a Twitch?
Yeah.
I look at that, I'm like, that is just like... Venza knows he is going to have a difficult game. You have no option now as XL other than to just snowball the game. That's what I'm looking at here, because if you ever get caught with the Wukong, with the Hemo play, with everything, things get very difficult. The Gwen, I'm surprised that slipped this way through the draft, but it has gotten in there. It is going to be the flex of the Sejuani into the jungle. But it's still counterpick for Chasey.
I mean,
okay, we got the lock-ins. I only see one knock-up from JDXL to activate the Yasuo, and it has to be the Sejuani. It's not the easiest one to also connect with more than one. I have to do the question. Boys, who's going to take this one? Give me your votes. Nightmare, let's start with you.
I think it's X7. I think that they have a lot of threat onto the backliners. It's a very difficult composition to play for JDXL. X7, they have comfort for a lot of their players. They have scaling. They have the ability to just outplay.
Okay, what about you, M-Test?
I said last time I was here, I casted Vanir, and I said Flash was getting the biggest outdraft in the league's history. I think this might take it. I think I'm struggling to see where JDXL, where the identity lies. Sure, if Christ can get ahead on this Gwen pick, maybe he can carry, but just looking at X7 scaling, I think JDXL cannot punish enough in the early game.
Remarks.
I think the one last thing I'll ask you to remember, though, is that it is a Sejuani with double melee solo laners. And with the damage you can get even early on, it can be quite a lot of surprising gank potential between that. Maybe there's an early game option if the Sejuani starts doing something.
A lot of weight on Dan's shoulder.
Yeah, I look into this draft and I think, okay, there's a lot of power to the late game in favor of X7. JDXL have to make it work from the beginning of the game. It's going to be a best of 5, so let's see what happens on the first one as we toss it to the casters, because I need some eyeliner. Take it away.
I am looking forward to see what
I've
got to get on this train as well at this point, so I'm going to be the last one to get something done to myself at this point. But I think I agree with M-Test there. A lot of weight on Dan's shoulder to get things rolling, and honestly, a lot of mid-lane bans coming out, which led to some slightly unusual mid-lane matchups.
I think that they sort of were very clever from the sort of X7, because I think the two most prominent champions that were left in Morozku's pool that we know of course, is the Yasuo and the Yone.
Of course.
And these two are very easily counterable by heavy push. A lot of the mages that do punish them and shove them into the lane underneath the tower. But there were 7 mid lane bans.
Huge amount of focus.
It's the same way that Temp was focused, that Morozku was focused, and I agree. If anything, it's on Dan's shoulders, as it been for the entire season, to try and get the laners ahead.
He'll do what he can, and again, it is a very telling matchup. The rivalry from spring, the best of 5 we never got. Finally here in summer, we have it as we head into game 1. A rivalry that has been as large as the X's in their name. One of these teams after the series today is going straight to the finals, is going straight to the main stage. And my God, the tempers, the passions are running hot. Let's see how it works out on the Rift.
Okay, I'm going to make a very weird sort of scenario here. Please do follow me, viewers. Please do follow me, initialize.
I'm on this train.
Yesterday, XL managed to knock out Vitality from playoffs.
I recall.
And get themselves in, right? If you remember who played in Vitality, it was Haru in the jungle. Yes. Haru, ex-jungler for X7. Maybe the scenario will repeat itself by XL pushing down to the lower bracket. Sorry, I mean
my tinfoil to make a little hat quickly to stick over my headset.
I need that whiteboard where it's connecting all the clues together to try and make a
the
scenario.
Conspiracy is real. You have to believe me.
To bring everyone back to reality, the overall score between spring and summer between XL and X7 is a 3-1 to X7.
Oh, yeah.
XL were only able to pick one victory off them at the very beginning of summer split, and we've never seen a best-of-series scenario between the two teams, which is why we keep reiterating how important it is. Ever since X7 joined the NLC, XL has been their rivals, and the fact that we get, hopefully, a bunch of games to celebrate that rivalry and hope for 5 of them is very eye-pleasing for everyone.
Absolutely is, and let's be real, it's a little bit difficult to work out what level these teams are at as well in some ways, because we know in summer, or in spring at least, X7 XL should have been coming in at an extraordinarily high level. In summer, big shifts up for XL. On the other side for X7, they've had some changes and they've had to climb through the lower bracket.
Yep.
What level are these teams at, especially considering XL had a pretty good run at Dusty, all things said and done?
Yeah, I think we only have a very small sample size of a best-of series for the side of XL, but I feel like their series versus Dusty showed a lot of development, especially coming from a 0-5 regular split end. And from the side of X7, we have 2 best-of scenarios where once they played Bifrost and in the other one they ended up playing Astralis, and they pretty much demolished both the teams. 3-1 on one best-of-5, 3-0 on the other one. They're the only team to be able to 3-0 anyone in these playoffs now in summer, and they're looking as one of the more formidable opponents that XL can face together with Dusty.
Well, there's just so much to keep track of this, because X7, we're our spring champions, got to quarterfinals at the EU Masters. They were an indomitable team that looked like one of the potential favorites for the whole damn tournament. On the other side, XL, they haven't made EU Masters despite what should have been appearances since, what, summer or spring of last year?
Spring 2021 was the last time XL Academy made EU Masters. It was the Marcoon Advent train back then, 2021 spring, where they made it all the way to finals to only get stopped by Carmen Corp.
Rough stuff.
Ever since then, they've not even qualified. Summer 2021, spring 2022, unfortunately cut short on their tracks in the playoffs race in the NLC, and right now they're getting the chance. Now, of course, for both of these teams, as we were talking a little bit in the pre-show as well, there was a very interesting conversation about which team would it benefit to go through the play-ins a little bit more. And I think we obviously need to celebrate whoever goes straight into the main stage, because the huge showing, so many eyes are seeing, LEC scouts are out there looking for the next player, the next big thing to put in their team. And it's very important for these guys to show up and show off at the main stage of EU Masters. But if we think of Bifrost in spring, we had them as our underdogs in the NLC going over to EU Masters. Not only did they manage to beat expectations, knocking off Barcelona in play-ins, but they also managed to make it all the way to the quarterfinals. So do you make it through play-ins? It seems like you're having a pretty successful run at EU Masters.
Of course, don't get me wrong, play-ins is definitely a bit of a pressure cooker. You either get...
two LFL teams, that's what I'm going to say.
Exactly. You burn out or you make the distance, it feels like, if you go in play-ins. And, it's definitely seen teams that have been, extraordinary teams. Like, I believe Vitality fell out of play-ins once or twice. We saw BDS Academy struggle in play-ins last time around as well. And of course, there's that world there. Bifrost do what they did and managed to make their way all the way to those quarterfinals and stuff. You can see how the runs went. Karmine Corp from play-ins all the way to winning the damn thing last split, right?
Sure.
So, there is definitely a certain thing where if you come through the play-ins reforged anew, you can be a very deadly competitor. But, of course, I think both teams would rather make the run and say, I'm in finals, I get to play for the NLC trophy, and then go to main stage, and then look to be one of the favorites going for the whole damn thing. You want everything. You don't want to necessarily look towards the bright side of losing, which I can understand is perhaps not there for the pride of everybody else.
Now, talking about everything, Viking wants pretty much everything out of Dan's jungle as well. The jungles are pretty same XP, pretty same when it comes to camps. You'll see that both supports have actually bundled up in this chicken area to make sure that their junglers actually secure this big chicken. And you'll see that this actually puts, if anything, Viking just a tiny bit behind, because now he has to run to his own camp, whilst here Dan is going to take his back and get back onto the map. Although Viking has already had his reset, which means this is why he wanted to fight, this is why he wanted to invade aggressively, had this
take that opportunity, exactly. Because there's going to be the reset there, so that slight lack of tempo that by going for the invade that doesn't quite work out does fall off a little. Sven's been chunked out a bit down that bot.
Something that really interests me right here is that we have JDXL as this very early aggressive team where Dan is going to be ganking, you know, mid, bot, top at the same time, getting his laners ahead. I'm seeing a very Astralis approach here, if you will, because I feel like Astralis also changed their approach when it came to playing X7. They went more for a front-to-back composition, something that they can actually match the scaling that X7 have been putting in, and a Twitch does match the scale of a Zeri. The Yasuo, if anything, does match the scaling of a Vladimir. And if we look towards the tops of the map, I'd say that Gwen wins when it comes to scaling, just because he can play the team fights much better later on. Whilst for Chasey, he's going to have to be mechanically expert for this team fight to work on a Fiora.
In fairness,
so if anything,
he's pretty good at being mechanically excellent.
If anything, when it comes to ease of execution in the front to back, I feel like XL might have a slight edge on how they wanted to play the game.
I mean, look, the one concern will be how easy is it to set up Morozq for those big last breaths, and that could get a little tricky because, of course, with Vladimir's pull, with Zeri playing a long way back, access to people you want to be hitting as a Yasuo could be a little tricky, but...
Luckily,
yes,
2 members of JDXL on your screen, Dan and FGG, are very well equipped to actually set up the Yasuo for success. A pretty good handshake can get Morozq in on a very crucial target that has overextended. Dan, if he gets that flash Q onto a member and get that knockback, getting also Morozq in is going to be, of course, much more difficult with all the space that the Zeri likes to create together with the Lulu, together with the Vladimir, right? But if they do find these knockups, X7 are extremely squishy no matter where you look.
FGG and Dan have gone for this blue buff invade, but they're about to get collapsed on by 4 members. They need to be very afraid here. There'll be a smite fight that
level 6
wins, but there is a level 6, but Temp will have the immune, but he's going to actually not get the Sanguine pull off. Will go under now. He's one with the Hemo Blade and the turnaround. Pretty strong from X7. XL have Dan flash out, but Venza dies, and that invade is swiftly punished.
I actually thought this was going to go XL's way because Venza had an absolutely fantastic flank on this rat. I'm not sure if he had actually bought any items because he came straight from bot lane.
I think he was just on call.
I think he was just on that call on his inventory, which means not a lot of damage was managed to be done right there. But I think the concept right there is that Dan steals away the blue buff and gets level 6. And you don't expect it because Wukong is level 5, suddenly Sejuani is level 6. They can turn this around. But due to the nature of how Vladimir also works, Temp soaked up all the initial burst, healed through that ultimate, healed through his entire Q with full rage, and ended up staying alive. And I think Venza right there with not much damage, bunching into 4 members, he was an easy target.
And we heard on the desk, we heard it from you as well, that Dan would be a big priority here for the side of XL to get things going on both these junglers. Those stats aren't necessarily phenomenal, but you can see Dan's participation in the early game. 80% on those first bloods. XL have lived and died by Dan's ability to get things going in the early game, and that's not a good sign for them. That play goes a bit wrong.
I think this is a loss about the junglers because these are 2 of the best junglers that we have in the NLC, together with Linkas, of course, who's waiting in the finals.
Oh, yeah.
And you're wondering, okay, wait, if these guys are like 2 of the best 3 that you have, why are they always falling behind if they're that good? And that's because both of their teams heavily rely on their shadowing, on their ganking, on them being there. Although, for Viking, he has been doing the shadowing, he has been doing the hovering around his laners, but it's their laners that win through the 1v1s, therefore his kill participation is extremely low. On the other hand, if Dan doesn't pull the trigger, it feels like JDXL are just very inactive on the map. And talking about activity and inactivity...
Yeah, we're going to see a bit of a contest here as 3v3 is definitely a potential. As Gwen takes a bit of a vital proc there, but X7 do decide they don't want to fight this.
Very importantly, if you look on the map right here, FGG shows on the mid wave. The second he showed, there were pings from X7 to be careful. Therefore, they're going to throw their hands up and get off, but Chasey has no flash.
Afraid here. Does do a very good job to immune that and dodges out of the Glacial Prison. That goes wild. And yeah, there was a bit of an X-Smithy there. The #1 LCS jungler of all time, as voted by a lot of the LCS analysts, also notorious for whiffing a few of those Surge ults.
Listen, man, it's the same thing with Jankos, right? He's been one of the best we've had in the when it comes to his needle space. We're taking a little bit of piss there.
He's actually quite good at this, but Viking's up here now to make sure his top laner can push in. But Chasey, I think, gets away with it a little there and does get to get the shove in.
I really love the fact that Viking actually moved towards the top side of the map to try and crush this wave, because Kryze barely doesn't have his TP up and available, which means that he will miss a couple of these creeps falling prey to the tower, and very crucially, that cannon. Now, if we look at why this is very important, as you will see, the difference between the laners is
huge.
20 CS top side of the map, 20 CS mid side of the map, 20 CS bot side of the map. So every single lane is falling behind individually. And that comes back to everything we've been talking about, X7 and Wise, Viking. Not the most crucial part to X7 winning that early game is because they have such stellar individual laners that they get that win through just the laning phase. And farming now Tempt might get farmed by JDXL as the 3 members mid.
How good will the Sanguine pool be? Gets knocked up. There's the permafrost. It's not quite stacked. He's not got a flash. He's got nowhere to go. Viking goes in though, trying to turn this one around. The healing is good, but not good enough. Double knockup is in. Kasing is here, but it will be too little and a little too late.
Very crucially, 20 seconds until the Dragon is coming up, and Morosku has held on to his ult. Dan's ult is going to be coming back up. Crysis teleport is going to be coming back up, and at this point, Chasey did use his ultimate towards the top side of the map. Now what Crysis can do is a speed running towards the bot side, go for that Dragon fight, does it break out, and then TP back top. JDXL feel like there is no point. Tempt does not have teleport to join. It is going to be a 3 versus 4 to their advantage, so they're going to start the Dragon nevertheless.
Yeah, that is well played by JDXL, especially because they were falling a surprising amount of gold behind, as you said, just off those lanes. Wait, what is going on? Dan needs to be very afraid. Gets burned out, he's into the bailout, but he'll take a dragon and dive for it. Attila picks up a kill on his Zeri.
I'm a little bit concerned there of what happened.
I don't know what.
FTG was in that bush, and we know how powerful Renata's auto attacks are, as her ultimate is, which he's going to have to use here if he wants to get out of the tower dive alive.
Polymorph is down there. The exhaust flashed away from Bender into the handshake. Viking, though, is not the one who's taking aggro. Kasing goes golden. Does have flash. Will he need to burn it? Likely will do. There's a wild growth afterwards being run down. Not quite falling until that Renata gets a final pistol shot.
Okay, I never thought I was going to say that FTG and Venzer would come out alive of a 3 versus 2 tower dive and actually take one down themselves. Very well done right there. FTG's ultimate was so well placed to stop any siege and separate Viking from his bot lane, meaning that Kasing was actually overexposed and ends up dying right there. Nevertheless, this tower dive took every single remaining summoner spell from the bot lane, as Morosku is fancying a little bit of a 1v1 between himself and...
Trying his best. There's a turnaround with the Hemoplague, and there's an empowered transfusion, so the damage turnaround should still be pretty okay.
Now, if you guys were wondering about who scales the most into the late game coming into Vladimir and Yasuo, one of the most dangerous and underestimated damage sources from Yasuo are his auto attacks, as we will go down towards the bot side of the map, and since FTG has to flash away from Viking, all eyes on FTG's Renata right here because his ultimate is very crucial. They will exhaust the Wukong and stop the fight from happening by zoning Attila out with the hostile takeover, and Kasing, overexposed underneath the tower, ends up dying. Now, of course, we talked a lot about how powerful these Renata auto attacks are and how empowered they are on her kit, and therefore this is why they were also nerfed in the current pass that we're playing on.
And again, Kasing got a little unlucky that when Attila dropped aggro, he was the one that picked it up and not the Wukong. But either way, XL still feel very pleased to come away with that kill, and again, it keeps the game within touching distance in a very playable range, and it gets some assist gold onto the Twitch, who was having a bit of a difficult time earlier on. Of course, he is now down the flash, the exhaust, and that makes things a bit trickier. But as long as he can survive any potential reganks, things looking pretty okay for JDXL.
Now, the thing is, if we look all across the map, there's still that 20 CS deficit for the sort of JDXL. So again, X7 have been doing fantastically well through the laning phase. Now, if we can toggle a little bit to gold, I'd like to see what the mid lane difference is. And it's not that much, as you can see. It's about around the 400 mark. And that's due to the fact that a bunch of the turret platings, with the Rift Trail being put in the mid, went over towards Morosku's Yasuo. And with Yasuo, another thing that, again, people underestimate is the power of his auto attacks. Yes, his Q's hurt, his E's hurt, his ult hurts, but the champion can literally run you down with auto attacks. And when a champion does that much damage with auto attacks, they have more consistent damage, whilst Vladimir is more of a burst sustain mate. So when it comes to the 1 versus 1, Yasuo will have the upper hand in this matchup.
Yeah, and of course he's gone for the Ignite, not the Ghost or anything like that, which you sometimes see on the Vladimirs to add a little bit more of that mobility. So Attila, though, being jumped on, has a Spark Surge, so gets out of dodge relatively quickly, but it's a half of his HP bar that comes at the cost of it all.
And I wonder what this was done for, because usually when you will aggressively pop ultimate on your Twitch, you're usually looking for a play, you're usually maybe looking for a dragon, you're looking to push away your opponent laner, but right here, Till and Kasika sitting very comfortably with full summoners and full HP, and Dan is going to walk into Viking.
Yeah, there's the handshake, goes a little wild. There's the knock-up with the Cyclone, but it's going to turn around. Going to try and play one, but Tempt is coming over. The Ignite's going down to Viking, but there's a Hemo Plague afterwards. Dan has to flash on out. Wild Growth is there. Viking goes berserk, but it's his clone. There's a dead Twitch on the other side. Tempt on the other one. Gets Dan down into the Baylor. FGG ignited, trying to run away. Roshku is there, but cannot heal enough. Polymorphed, and he's not doing anything as a bunny rabbit. He is dead, and he is not a Monty Python character. There is no killer in that one.
JC.
Oh my god, the 1v1, the Grand Challenge Throwdown, the Ignite is on. The Ignite is parried. Gonna use that ultimate to get away from danger. My god, Chasey with the riposte of his life to block that needlework.
That looked very close for comfort for both, but you can see how much healing Kryze gets through the Gwen ultimates. But can we just talk about that overextension from JDXL towards the bottom left that was immediately capitalized upon by X7? We said how comfortably Kasing and Attila were sitting on all of their summoner spells, all of their ultimates, and Venzer on this Twitch had just blown his to try and shove in that wave really quickly. Now, usually we say when this happens, there's a play happening, you want to go towards the dragon, you want to play a bit more aggressive, but right there, mid lane didn't have prio. Thank you for the replay observers right here, and Dan just walks into Viking, and even though, yes, you win kind of the 1v1 because you get to play aggressive towards the Wukong, Tempt walks in first, and Venzer walks through the bot side of the map, getting caught between 4 members of X7 right there. Huge misstep from the JDXL AD carry. Ends up dying instantly, doesn't have this ultimate as well to put down this huge damage before he dies.
Oh, the polymorphs have been so good onto this Yasuo. That's twice now that things like the ultimates have been interrupted. Viking has found Venz, who's still got no flash. Does not quite die. Stays alive, but what about a final order for someone like Chasey? Go lunge forward and put him into a bailout. He will not stay alive, and a riposte ensures the duelist from the top lane gets out of dodge.
Venzer seems a little bit lost for me in this game. He's walking through paths he shouldn't be taking. He's overextending. He doesn't exactly know how to join these fights, and I think Namera said it on the desk as well. How in the world does this Twitch play the team fights? There's flanks from Fiora, there's flanks from Wukong, there's flanks from Vladimir, and then you run towards a Zeri and a Lulu if you want to take the other side of the map to play through. And I think it's just very difficult for Venzer to actually find his foot, and if he doesn't, this is very difficult for JDXL to play the game. Now, luckily for them, they have 2 more sources of damage that are extremely high, the Yasuo and the Gwen. But that also demands for them to be in a pretty good position. Kryze is in a good position for the 1v1 right here.
Ooh. Doing his best, good parry, but we'll hold on to that other half of the ultimate. But now the Grand Challenge comes down, we'll get the healing back, and Chasey can start trying to trade this one up with the ultimate advantage.
Hold on.
Twice hops over the wall. Maybe not going to go any further than that, and Chasey out of mana, just going to trade ultimate for ultimate. I got a little nervous there when the riposte didn't work
It's a nail
out.
biter. This 1 versus 1 is such a nail biter because it has to do with who uses the healing spells first is going to go down first. And since Kryze actually opened up with his ultimate when these needles actually ended, and he had a full healing done on his HP bar, this is where Chasey knew the limits of how much he can heal with his champion while also putting down the damage and the ultimate. So really good stuff actually from both the top laners right here. I've actually expected a kill to go each way through the laning phase, but they have been playing on these limits. And again, for Gwen to join a team fight is much easier to play than for a Fiora, so Chasey's gonna have a few more challenges joining these team fights. This is why I'm saying that at least JDXL, you know, if that Twitch ends up going down, you've got the Yasuo, you've got the Gwen, you can salvage the fight. On the other hand side, you can very easily use the Fiora for side lane pressure.
Keep an eye on Kasing's inventory as well, because I think he's been very critical so far. He's just picked up a Mikhail's as well.
So, I had a talk with Kasing about this.
Did you?
When Mickey X picked Janna together with Draven in LEC, I asked him, why is the Janna so good? And he said, it's really good because you get to keep your laner safe later on in the fights, but the most crucial thing is that you build first that Mikhail's Crucible, and that means that you cannot catch your ADC off guard no matter what. And right here, playing into the Renata, into the Sejuani, you pretty much negate any CC thrown anyone's way.
Being able to immune the huge ticket ultimate that is that Glacial Prison is such a massive deal, so I completely agree with you there, and I think that's some wise words from both you and Kasing. Took me a second.
Well, mostly his.
Yeah, well, yes, but you still put them across fairly eloquently. I was trying to be nice. Come on. Either way, Tower on the top side does fall. Next 7 find themselves up about 5,000 gold, and they've got the 2-1 Dragon lead. It's a bit of a tricky position for JDXL to be in now.
That's a situation that I actually expected to go the other way. I was expecting XL to possibly be ahead in the early game due to the fact that they had the Sejuani, the double melee laners as well, where you can play through, and then X7 win through still a team fighting. Now, saying this, the fact that a lot of these outer towers have gone down is diminishing a lot of the vision that XL are going to have towards these river fights, and these river fights have definitely not been going XL's way. Every time XL has stepped up in the river, there have been multiple deaths for them, and X7 are more than happy to use their scaling, use the CC, use their frontal that they have with the Wukong and the Vladimir to actually force these fights in the river.
We're just going to do a quick check-in here.
Let's take a break.
Well. Absolutely, just briefly, everybody. Remember, we do have a hashtag NLC Pets to allow you to join in with us here as part of the community. And we've got a wonderful Sleeping Apollo here from Crawler's Gate. And do throw those pet pics at us. We love to see them. We love to share them where we can. Of course, while we have got a little bit of dead time between the next objectives, it's nice to check in with the fans at home.
Now, the thing is, we talked a lot about the Glacial Prison.
That's the ultimate, indeed it is.
Oh, very well done, Georgia.
I'm proud
we
of you.
talked a lot about the Sejuani ultimate, but another crucial spell is the Flash Q from Dan. If that hits onto Attila, then the Yasuo ultimate can follow up, then Handshake can follow up, and with
Viking.
damage.
Speaking of flashes on jungler, Venza gets jumped on, but Viking gets pulled back with a handshake. And it keeps Venza alive, but the flash on the Twitch being down is a terror! As Temp just deleted, there's no way for Venza to go! He's gonna die, there's Mikhail's afterward, Temp's got wild growth as well! They're finally trying to turn it around. They'll get him, it's a 1-for-1 now. Oh, turn around! Roshu lands the ultimate, he's trying to run through the fights. Viking the back end of it gets knocked out, and they'll take a mid and a jungler. Brutal turnaround from JDXL after what looked like a clean pick onto the AD carry.
The rookie from JDXL stepping up, holding on to his ultimate. Hold on, because they're not done yet. The JDXL is going to be popped in the mid lane by X7.
JC
Are pretty healthy.
Does have the parry, will immune the permafrost. Cries trying to run away. So low is everybody. Rusku gets a knockup, but he's been polymorphed. And JC on the Fiora will turn that one around as well.
Remember how we said that for Fiora, it's a little bit more difficult to play the front-to-back fights, but when everyone is blinking health bars and she's got her passive stacked onto everyone, she suddenly starts sneaking in that poke damage by hitting the vitals, then you can suddenly all in, and with the help of a Lulu right there buffing you and speeding you up, it's very crucial. Now again, Venza, they see blood, Viking dives in, flashes onto him, Renata very powerful, keeping Twitch alive, but Tempt overextends, dashes in, gets exhausted on his ultimate, which means that not only does it not do a lot of damage, but he also gets slowed on his way out. And very crucially, Morosku, he's like, if you guys don't have any spells, I'll freaking do it myself. Hits Attila with a knockup, then follows up with the ultimate. Again, the rookie, very important there to get these ultimates even himself after every other spell has failed or is not on cooldown from JDXL. But X7 are on a very important win con, and that is the Ocean Soul, which will be coming up in 5 minutes.
Got to keep an eye on the only flash remaining on JDXL is now on Dan. Venza is in such a difficult position now in this game, and look, honestly,
you're like, I feel like Venzer's getting low-key bullied.
Of course he is.
Game.
Well, that's literally what Temp's job is here, is I dive on Venza and I try and get out with Pool. The turnaround was good from XL that time. Maybe it'll be good enough here as well. Does get permafrosted, but it's got some healing. Has a Pool as well. The Hemo Plague comes down. Try to trade this one out, and that'll be Cries getting Temp at what cost? There's the bailout. It'll be a solo laner for solo laner trade Attila over the wall, but he's getting ulted. Has to flash out the other side of it.
Oh, X7 played with milliseconds right there, because X7 knew what the Renata ultimate cooldown was. FTG didn't have it up for just a couple of seconds. That means they can bunch up into this choke point, get a bunch of damage down with their Vladimir, and trade top laners at this point. So very well done for XN. Had they fought a little bit later when that hostile takeover was up and available through that choke point, it could have meant really bad stuff. But let's keep a track always of summoners, because Attila's summoner just went down. He doesn't have his flash available right here, and neither does Venza. But in 3 minutes and 45 seconds, Venza will have his flash up and available, which is very important. Having all these flanks coming in from X7, and Attila doesn't have his, which means that with Dan's flash available, a flash Q is a big possibility to start a fight.
Absolutely is. And, you know, let's give some credit there as well. That was a nice turnaround, because literally, I think it was like, what, half a second before the Hemo Plague healing comes through. And Temp just gets to walk out of that. But Cries gets that edge, and they are some nice edge fights. He has 2 in a row, honestly, where XL, despite being behind in this game, are doing a really good job to keep things in. Chasey's second item, as pointed out by George, well, will be the hull breaker as well. So less of a teamfight option, more of an ability to be a real obnoxious threat in the side lane.
So the thing that I've always said about Dusty and Riddle is the fact that they always have a split poster, but always the 4-man core units are very strong and undiveable. Right here you've got Wukong, Vladimir, Zeri and Lulu. All 4 of them very squishy. We've seen Dan pull the trigger on either Tempt or Viking, and they go down really, really fast when the rest of the members of XL are there. So for Chasey to actually commit into complete and utter split push and try to end and create pressure through there, I'd like to see what XL can actually do with the numbers advantage on the map.
I will point out that the item advantage makes things trickier because Attila now has an infinity edge on Zeri, and the last time he got that, he turned around a nearly unstoppable
It's almost
Ari.
26 minutes in his
Exactly,
eyes.
it's pretty much there. The clock has ticked over. Attila's hit the 26-minute mark. If anybody follows the LCK, that Zeri certification is well and truly available to be signed. Kasing will cleanse that one, Captain Jack style with the Mikhails, though.
Very clean. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the cooldown from Mikhails versus the cooldown from the Sejuani ultimate. It seems like the Sejuani ultimate is a little bit of a faster cooldown, so it will come up. So there is a window where you can reuse that where that Mikhails Crucible is not up and available for Kasing.
The extendo beam there took about half of FGG's health bar, though.
Classic.
Ow! Oh
my god!
I am sorry for what you were all witnessing. That is probably illegal in a few states and a few more countries besides. We're on to the Baron, though, in a 2-man here for X7.
Pushing FTG and Venzer out of the map means that you're able to actually start the Baron. And it doesn't necessarily have to be you starting and finishing the Baron. You can actually force JDXL to walk into a choke point when you have a Vladimir level 15 for Temp, 2.5 items. JDXL seem to want to fight this. This Baron is not going down really fast.
They're down 3,000 down. It's going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be quite in time. He's in! He's in! He steals the Baron! Dan makes it work, and now X7 in the back of the pit have to turn this one around. It's a Hemo play, but I just don't think they've got enough. Temp goes golden. Shot down onto Viking on the other side. Twitch is dead. Tempt over the wall, and the back of XL are trapped in the pit. It's a gladiator arena, and of course the duelist will win on out. Chasey will punish the crimes of Dan. Stealing will lead to everyone else dying. Dan must run away. FGG burns out with a bailout on, and 2 members survive for JDXL. Beautiful, beautiful stuff from Dan.
I don't know if Morocco can actually get away from that. He will, but XL got out with broad daylight murder right there, flashing in, stealing Baron, getting away with it. It feels like X7 were trying to bait them in, and very well they could. 2.5 items with a Fiora, 2 items on your Vladimir with a stopwatch. You've got 3 items on Attila Zeri. This is where you want to start putting down these fights before the Twitch actually matches you in items and power spike. And X7, don't get me wrong, this for XL is just a bailout for the late game. And as you can see again, Dan flashes in. There was no smite up and available for Viking at that point, as I can see on the spectator mode. And I felt like the fact that Venza was there, he was actually zoning away Attila and Kasing very nicely with his ultimate, but the second Chasey joins the fight. That Fiora is unstoppable. We have another one.
Welcome back to the bloodbath, everybody. We've got Notion Drake live, and that would be a soul for X7.
Really quickly keeping track of what has been burned so far. There is no Renata ult, there is also Sejuani ult very crucially, and only Lulu and Wukong have used theirs on the other side.
Soul is down. That's that for that. And of course, we've got a Vladimir already. Talk about healing gains. They're going to do what they can as a 3rd item in for Fiora. Chasey is hunting. He might have a hull breaker, but he still feels like he can dance around just like that. Lunges for another auto.
Do you know what's the difference between a Baron and a Soul?
No, do tell.
Well, Baron is temporary. Soul is forever.
Forever. That would almost be wise if you didn't just look at me and give me this, like, complete... I can't say that word, eating grin.
Did I give you like some high fashion like perfume?
That's it.
Advert.
Eau de Baron. Soul is forever. Baron is temporary.
Soul is forever. Eau de parfum.
Coming new to the NLC merch store. Oh boy.
But coming back to this,
yes.
It is still a 3,000 to 4,000 lead for X7. It has not shrinked and it has not expanded ever since the very early game. But right now, having that Ocean Soul on champions that heal for so much, like Fiora, like Vladimir, like Zeri with that shield ball right there, is going to be really difficult for XL to actually find ways to burst them down. Now, I instantly looked at the inventory of XL and I'm like, you better have some anti-healing up in there. And there is a Morello sitting in FTG's pocket, and there are 2 Bramble Vests as well on sitting on Dan and Kraz on the top side of the map. But I don't think this will stop the Seeds, because look again at the inventories. 3 items on that Fiora, 2 items on the Wukong, 3 items very crucially. Hourglass completed on temp. He goes in, he waits for the ultimate, he waits for the healing, and then he's out of Hourglass full HP.
At least Venza just picked up the Runan's Hurricane, so he's got that additional ability for team fighting, but Cry's doing his best to turn this one around, but the Hemoplague is there, Dan's around. But this is a 2v4, and Temp should just heal right back up there. The Ignite comes down and cuts some of it. Remember, he's got Ocean Soul. He'll heal back up again pretty quickly, plus a few transfusions courtesy of his Q, and he'll be just all right. On the other side, Chasey gets to do that.
And that's exactly what we talked about. How can they make this Fiora work by having 4 members that are very squishy and very susceptible to getting ganked? And the reply right here is use Tempt, have him use his HP bar, have him use his ult on the other side of the map, absorb all the pressure. He doesn't die. He's got his Hourglass, he's got his pool, he's gonna get out. Oh!
Exhausted, but will cleanse his way away, has a Wild Growth as well. Doing his best with a spray and pray is Venza, and Flash for Flash is the trade. On the other side, Chasey has teleported. He's not roasted it. He's going in a 1v5 actually at this point. Riposte comes through. Cry stepping forward, doing his best to get onto Kasig, but the turnaround starting to come through his Tempt on the side, doing what he can. Cry dashing away with a skip and slash. But so much damage and no one's died. Viking is here. Could look for a Cyclone. The handshake prevents Tempt's easy access.
I propose
End of it.
We bring Wanda's beautiful paint job that said, what is going on? Because right here, Chasey is diving in 1 versus 5. Viking is on the flank. Attila used both of his summoners to get away from both of the summoners of Venza following up for a kill. And I am so happy to see that both of these teams are not waiting for that late game. They say, screw this, they want blood, and this is what exactly we were anticipating when we said this is the biggest rivalry the NLC has in 2022, and this is the first best-of series we will get to see this year between these 2 teams, and it is delivering, even though you see the scorelines, you see 0-5 on the tweets, 1-2, 1-2, 2-2 on the side of XL. 5,000 gold deficit. They have been putting up the fights, but X7 have never let go of that gas pedal. But very importantly, again, now that Attila does not have his summons up and available, he has Kasing with Mikhails, and he also has his own Guardian Angel. They have to kill him twice.
He is so tricky to deal with. We've seen what Zeri's can do. I refer to the likes of a Zeri with a Lulu most recently. Upset got 1,800 plus DPM on it over in the LEC when Fnatic was fighting for playoffs. Attila set up to try and do the same in this game. Prison goes wide. That's a fairly big tool. What about Viking? Will they look to turn around as Tempt and Chasey are doing the 1-3-1. 1-3-1-ing has fallen off the meta just a little bit, but X7 are going back to it pretty successfully at this point.
It just works right here because look, they're putting pressure towards the bot side of the map. They know that Chasey has that teleport. I want to remind you that it was a miracle steal from Dan. From JDXL that took away that X7 Baron, but X7 won the fight. So right here, you've got 4 items onto your Zeri. You definitely want to be picking up these fights. Chasey level 17 as well. If XL walk into this choke point, they're walking into a 3.5 item Tempt on this Vladimir.
Here we go again, X7 pulling off the Baron, still down at 8,000. They keep it procced. Dan thinking about going back. They think it's a bait. They think it's a turnaround. Look at the other side though. Chasey onto an inhibitor with Cries there. That ultimate goes wide. That's a massive deal. What are they going to do? It's already gone. Dan won't be able to get there to contest. He's recalling. He's gone back and they have to try and get out of there as all the while. X7 this time, do not allow the flip to happen.
So the second that I think Cries pops his ultimate, XL have to actually call off that fight, and X7 knew this very well. The fact that Chasey is able to pull off Cries' ultimate without using his is huge. Remember what we said, if one champion uses their healing first, then the other one knows how much wiggle room they have for this 1 versus 1. And the Fiora right now is massively winning onto a side lane, having that whole breaker for that extra push underneath the towers. And right now we've got Elda, 35 seconds. The team that wins takes it all. But
X7
when you're going into this fight with an 8k gold deficit, it's really difficult.
Eyes on Vikings inventory. He knows exactly what play's going up. He's got an Elixir of Wrath ready to proc. He knows exactly what happens, and XL have done their best to make sure they've still been within touching distance this game. It's just so hard now as Chasey.
Quickly, no carries have flash, and Chasey is still looking for for his first inhibitor tower, but no carries have flash. Attila, no flash. Venza, no flash. Whoever man goes down first ends up losing, the team fight.
Chasey ready to start dancing around with death. That item complete in his inventory. Cries down to half HP, and Chasey ignores it all right now. Another big lunge, and she's got the ghost. He's going for the solo. Cries is gone, the tower is gone, and now the Elder Dragon is a must win. But you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. There's a Fiora in your base. They're going to try and start doing the fight, but X7 just need to hold them here. Venza's gone. Has tempted the back X7's, the 1v1 is X7's, and game 1 is X7's.
We wondered if Chasey was gonna be able to use that Fiora on the side lane. The answer is yes, and X7 are gonna be picking up the first game in the Legendary Series that we've been waiting for since spring.
We asked, they delivered. X7 with style managed to bring this game 1 to a close. XL made them work, but it was still a good, strong win from X7.
Score of all time between X7 and JDXL, 4-1 to X7. That was a very competitive game for game 1 of a best-of series, because usually we see a little bit of a lower caliber best-of-1, if you will, because teams are trying to warm up to their opponents and how exactly they want to play the game. But in this one, they went in straight from the get-go. And if we're going to have 5 games of this, I'm in.
Yeah, they were really well and truly warmed up for that one. The punches were flying from minute 1. We'll throw to the desk to break down that bloodbath of a game.
A clean game from X7. If you think you would be the only one with the eyeliner trouble, think again.
Warpaint, buddy.
Warpaint. Like, our makeup artist is on a new level.
Well, maybe this is just like a really intricate cosplay of like Cries after the 1v1 against Chasey. It's just like, boom, hull breaker across the face.
Oh, that's a thing. That's actually a thing. First clean game from X7 versus JDXL. Not much they could do. We could talk about the draft. We could talk about execution. Let's do that one. Because even though X7 had the leads on paper, JDXL did attempt something to do with this game, but it's not easy, is it?
No, because we kind of walked out of that draft, and I was really quite worried for XL. Now, we said, okay, there's a lot of burden on Dan. There's also a lot of burden on the lanes as well, and that's something that we didn't touch on as much, and we definitely saw within game, particularly in that top lane. We talked about it as win conditions for both these teams. Get Chasey on carries, get Cries with a preferential matchup. They both tried to do that, but of course, Chasey came out ahead.
And there was one topic we brought up, the idea that Twitch versus that composition, and it's not easy to execute. It's the first replay we have for you guys, as Twitch does a really good approach on the team fight, but gets deleted.
I mean, yeah, it's just an uphill battle for Venture and the JDXL squad in this one, right? I mean, we see here already, maybe it's not looking as grim. I mean, Dan actually gets kind of one-shot here by the Vladimir and Tempt. And after that, I feel like I struggle to see kind of where the identity of JDXL is. I mean, Naimera, you were speaking about how Sejan is here. Dan has such a heavy weight on his shoulders this time around to like snowball his solo laners. But just feel like it was so hard for him to set up the ganks.
Particularly in that play as well, Venzer is just like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
If you're playing this composition, you need to be very, very, very respectful of where your Twitch is at all times, because that champion is so hard to play in this composition. You're given a hard job. There's even more burden on you to kind of stay safe, right? And you're almost expected not to. It's just been like, how much can I get the enemy to use on me before I die at that point? But once you start losing these individual fights in the early game, it gets that, each time you take a fight after that point, it gets harder and harder.
And we're deciding who goes to finals. We're deciding who goes for the main stage of your Masters or who's going for play-ins. There's a lot of menacing teams on play-ins in European Masters. At this time, we're a team that is trying to adapt, recompose, and relearn how to play League of Legends between themselves, JDXL. Shouldn't they go for the draft that's easier to execute?
I mean,
I'm bringing a tough question because this is a tough one.
The thing is, what I like about JDXL and Torok especially, this guy has been able to throw so many curveballs, you know, through his history as a coach too. And I think just having this game 1 to kind of try out some things that we didn't quite fully understand on the desk, I think it's completely fine to do that in game 1. But now for game 2, you really need to have a solid plan, and you need to execute it. You can't go with 3 losing lanes and getting outscaled. It's just not acceptable.
Because yet again, you put the weight on the shoulders of Dan, and he was capable of slowing down the end of the game with the amazing play. We have that one start for you guys. It was just beautiful. Can you guide me through this one, Naimera?
Well, absolutely I can. When we get that replay.
When it shows up.
When it shows up.
Don't worry, guys. Don't worry, guys. The bet and steal, that's the one I'm trying to bring it up, because that would be over.
Yeah, because this is, well, I mean, Dan does a fantastic job of getting into the pit, but even with this, right, like, you're still trying to find your battle lines. And as we were saying, each time you take a fight in this game and you lose, it gets harder. By this point, you see the score line. X7 are already in a significant advantage, and that means you don't have cooldowns after you've got into the pit to shut down the Fiora, to shut down the Zeri, to get on top of any of your carries. Yeah, they do end up taking that Viking. That's all well and good, but that's one person amongst several carries arrayed from X7. And if we're talking about XL in terms of the woes that they came into that, let's talk about it from X7's side, because we said one of their strengths is great individual performances being backed up by now a sense of discipline and cohesion. That is a great fight to really showcase that. Every single carry is threatening and they're doing their job.
Before we jump into the second game, there's a lot of things I would like to approach. Sadly, we don't have enough time for all of those. But JDXL started with the blue side. And you brought something up on the green room, the idea that if you go for the blue side that has been keen to be the first pick for every single team throughout the entire world, you need to have a good blind pick to the top side.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Right? I feel like we're kind of struggling to see where Kreis has that pick into Chase, because once again, X7 on the red side, they kind of want this style. They want Chase to have the last pick, to go for the Fiora, go for the Jace, go for the carries, right? And Kreis not being able to blind pick a champion, he doesn't get rolled over this game, but he doesn't win either. So I think that's kind of where we're struggling to see where JDXL can get ahead. Maybe just go for the red side.
I was about to say, I actually think XL need the red side. I think they need to do that at this point, because I think that they are creative enough to deal with the power picks which X7 can throw at them. I think they are struggling when there's not enough stuff on the table so far for them to really start making a more cohesive draft. I think red side could work for them for the counter pick.
This first game was a good tackle coming in from X7, as we're going to throw it to the man, the myth, Torok, that needs to talk with us and show